Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're still following up with the live session that was held right now, and the urgent meeting of the UN extension of the mandate of the UN mission in Sudan, UNMISS. And to speak more about that, I'm so delighted to be accompanied here by His Excellency Ambassador Hossam Issa Qassem, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good evening, Your Excellency.
Good evening, and thank you very much for hosting or having me in this very important show. In fact, we have seen now a special session of the Security Council concerning the extension of the mandate of UN mission in South Sudan. This is a very important topic, especially South Sudan has been independent from Sudan since 2011. There have been some sort of a civil war between the government and the opposition, and an agreement has been signed in 2013 between the two parties, which made the head of the government, Mr. Salva Kiir, the president of Sudan, and his deputy, the head of the opposition, Mr. Riek Machar. Unfortunately, a civil war has erupted in 2016 and ended a few years later, and the UN mission is very important in keeping the peace after all the developments. This session in particular was for the extension of a very important mission in South Sudan in order to deal with the problem of stability and also deal with the problem of the coming elections and the formation of the government. So this is a very important issue in relation with what's happening in Africa in particular and in general, which we're witnessing now a lot of developments. Unfortunately, the attention of the world attention is distracted from Africa now because of the events in the Middle East, in the Gulf, in Europe and Ukraine. But a lot of problems are taking place in Africa, which are no less important in Sudan, in South Sudan, Somalia, in Mali, in Nigeria, and in many other countries, which we should shed some light on, especially because of it's a very important position strategically, economically, politically for Egypt and for the region of the Middle East as a whole.
Well, Your Excellency, of course we hope for the best, because always we witness the UN Council, the Security Council always holding sessions about, of course, the Middle East and Palestine and what's going on. So we are now getting more, I think, cheerful when we hear about, again, the focus is going back to Sudan and the African continent and the conflicts and all that, and calling for the mandate of the troops. I think this is a very good step. We'll go back live again for the sessions, and we'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, that was live from the meeting of the UN Council on the mandate of the troops, Security and Council troops in Sudan. And we still, South Sudan, we're still following up with my dear guest here in the studio, His Excellency Ambassador Hossam Issa Qassem, former Assistant Foreign Minister on the for Sudan and South Sudan. Well, Your Excellency, of course, we've been listening to the sessions, the first part and the second part. Well, this session, what I really admire about it is that they're speaking about Sudan finally.
South Sudan.
South Sudan finally. Right now, lots of events, as you said, lots of developments, lots of geopolitical changes, mentioning South Sudan and all the obstacles and all this thorn that is happening over there, and for also to extend the troops, which was actually there since 2013.
The mission of the United Nations.
Yes. So how do you see this?
This is very important. This is very important step and a very important session. One of the most stabilizing factors in South Sudan is the fact that UNMISS, or the United Nations mission for South Sudan, has been there after the signing of the revitalized agreement in South Sudan, of peace in South Sudan in 2013. This has been always a stabilizing factor, which led to the fact that now they are keeping peace and stability, and in order to keep the government from falling into another atrocious war similar to the civil wars that took place in 2016 after the war erupted between the government and the opposition, and that ended a few years later, and the UN mission has been very important, an integral part in keeping the peace ever since. So I think it's a very important step. I'm sure that Egypt played a very important role in that regard. It has always been for a positive role in of the international community, not only in South Sudan, but all other African countries which are in need of international support for its stability and the territorial integrity, which is one of the main principles that are governing the Egyptian policy in the continent.
Well, Your Excellency, of course, you mentioned something very important, which is the role of Egypt and its pivotal role, actually, when it comes to speaking about different files, especially when it comes to the African continent, more initiatives, when it comes to trade and all of that. Not all the African continent that we are involved with, but I'm speaking about the countries that Egypt has recently also supported when it comes to economy and also like infrastructure and some projects in other countries. So since you've been serving in Sudan, you stayed there for almost 4 years,
yes,
right, in South Sudan. How do you see this development and the support that is still going on from the Egyptian side or the Egyptian government up till now, up to this
In
moment?
fact, this is very important question. Egypt's position concerning all African causes, especially Sudan and South Sudan and all other African causes, is based on certain principles, which has proved right after with all the developments that took place in those countries during the last few years. First, the need to keep the territorial integrity and the stability of those countries. Second, the unity of those countries is very important. We are against any secessionist government or secessionist entity in any of those countries. Third, the need to strengthen the state institutions in those countries. Fourth, the need, one of the most important state institutions are the armed forces, the national armed forces of those countries, which are a very important stability factor in those countries and which helps preserve the stability and the territorial integrity and the security of those countries. This has been the Egyptian position concerning South Sudan, concerning Sudan, concerning Somalia and all other African countries, because I think and we think in Egypt that the security of the continent and the security of the region is very interconnected. No country can feel safe while its neighbors and its continent is insecure. No country can feel developed or can be developed while its neighborhood also is impoverished and having economic problems. And this has always been the position of Egypt, not only in South Sudan, but all other African countries, including Sudan, for example. We have always been supporting our brothers in Sudan ever since the revolution took place in 2018, and also that support continued after the eruption of the atrocious war that took place in 2023, 3 years ago. Egypt has always been supporting the state institutions and has been giving international or working hard in the international level as well as regional level in order to end the war, especially within the framework of the Quad. And we have also made the forum of neighboring countries of Sudan. This also has been the Egyptian position concerning the secessionist entities in Somalia and all other African countries.
Well, Your Excellency, of course, there's a lot to speak about when it comes to South Sudan, and of course, we are so delighted that this live session is going on. Of course, we'll be again commenting on this session, but after the top stories.